What's going on, y'all? Today we are back with another NFL mock draft, and the purpose of today's mock is going to be from a rumor started by Todd McShay, who has been right on several things in the past. For example, he predicted Dante Moore to go back to school in like October, and he was right about it even after Dante Moore's monster into the year before the falling out in the playoffs. So he is very intelligent. He has his inside sources, and he's very well connected with the NFL. He believes big time that the Cardinals are trying to either look to trade the number 3 overall pick because they don't have a tackle rated that high. They could just take David Bailey, or apparently one of the highly, I don't know, viewed people in the Cardinals building is really pushing for them to take Jeremiah Love 3rd overall. But today in this mock, the whole purpose of today's mock is going to be to play around with the idea of trading out of the 3rd pick in order to give someone else, presumably David Bailey is the name being talked about a ton. So let's go ahead and get started with things. And sorry, Raiders and Jets fans, it's only a 1 round mock. Jets, y'all still have 16, but Raiders, it's Fernando Mendoza, and it also feels like a foregone conclusion that the number 2 pick is probably going to be Arvel Reset this time. So we'll go ahead and punch those in. So now let's talk about some of the trades and my thought process behind them. So, like I said, the common belief is it sounds like the Cardinals want to take a offensive lineman. They just don't want to take 1/3 overall, and understandably so. My highest ranked offensive lineman's 11th overall on my big board in the class, so I understand trying to move down. I just really didn't think David Bailey was so much highly viewed over Ruben Bain than what it's sounding like he is. I figured he'd probably go before Bain. I didn't know it was to the point where teams might trade multiple first round picks. So let's go ahead and talk about some ideas because I have 3 teams in mind, and you see them in the thumbnail. So we'll start with the number 8 pick in the New Orleans Saints. I think they could use a big time upgrade off the edge. I like Chase Young a lot. Carl Granderson, I don't feel like was as good in a new system. So what would it cost the Saints to make this move? If I had to guess, it would probably be something around like 8, 132, and maybe a 1 next year. It is going to the top 3. It's going to cost a lot. Maybe you could do some sort of deal where it's like 73 and a 2 next year. I'll cut it flat out and short. The Saints were the 3rd team to toss in. I'm more focused about the Chiefs and the Cowboys because I think those teams desperately need a dominant pass rusher, and they both think they are ready to win now. The Chiefs have proven they can win now. The Cowboys might just be a little delusional. So, what would it cost the Chiefs to move up here? They have a ton of draft capital. That's why they are running away as my favorite. The Cowboys were the team Todd McShay mentioned as an idea. That kind of feels like a smokescreen. It's like, hey, they have the 2 top 20 picks. Maybe they can leverage that to go get an elite pass rusher. And a lot of NFL executives and analysts and stuff of that sort have been mocking the Cowboys' edge a lot, especially at number 12 from what I'm seeing. So you never know. Maybe they just want to get a overall dominant one at the top of the draft and call it a day. So, like I was saying though, I think it potentially could cost 29, and I think this could be the deal, just 9 and 29 for 3. Would they trade that pick to make it happen? I think you can definitely think about it because the reason I would want this pick, spoiler, the 29th pick if I'm Arizona, is solely to get that 5th-year option on Ty Simpson without having to trade up with 34. Or if I need to make a trade up, if you're hearing noise about the Jets potentially moving up, then it's going to be a closer move than someone moving completely out of the first round to pick 34. So, I mean, really 9 and 29 in general would probably sell me on doing this deal. Maybe you can talk about getting a 3rd round pick next year as well, just for the sake of getting some future capital. But let's talk about Dallas real quick because the Cowboys are going to be the team people are trying to push. I don't think they have the ammunition. They're missing a 4 and a 5 next year. Okay, they have extra 6. In reality, they don't have 2 first round picks. One of these is going to the Jets. So it would definitely have to be 12 and 20 as the major selling point to get this deal done. And I would say maybe you give Arizona 177 and then like maybe a 3rd next year because it's a big move back from the 3rd to the 12th pick. The Cardinals, funny enough, did this a couple years ago with the Texans where they went from 3 to 12, then from 12 to 6 with the Lions to get Paris Johnson. They could go that route again. Honestly, I think there's a good chance if you accept the Chiefs trade, you're still potentially looking at getting the first overall offensive lineman taken off the board. And it sounds like that's what they want to do. There will still be good options at 12. But if you're telling me like there's a chance, I guess, Maui Noah could go, I guess, maybe six to the Browns. Fano could go 11 to the Dolphins. Someone could trade up with like Cincinnati and take Freeling. Then you're at 12 and you missed out on the pass rushers, the top three tackles, and Jeremiah Love. That's a little too risky. So I think the trade I will make today will be with the Kansas City Chiefs. And the reason the Chiefs do this, I think out of the three teams I mentioned in the thumbnail, the Chiefs by far need an edge rusher more than any of them. I mean, it is literally Karlaftis by himself. I think David Bailey fits the system well. I think Ruben Bain's a better fit. Maybe it could be for Ruben Bain. Like I said, with today's video, it is going to be Bailey. So we are going to go ahead and trade. I'm going to say it does cost both first, especially just for the fun of getting the Cardinals another first in this scenario. And another top 100 pick kind of feels expensive to me. We'll say it's a fourth round pick next year instead. So this will be the trade. The Chiefs have now moved up. And like I said, with this idea, the Chiefs are going up to get David Bailey, pass rusher out of Texas Tech, to get a dominant force off the edge opposite of George Karlaftis. I can only say it so many times. I love Ruben Bain. I like Ruben Bain more than Arvell Reese and David Bailey. It seems like the NFL and scouts tied into the NFL and execs in the NFL don't feel the same way at all. So I will respect that and we'll make it more realistic for Bailey here at 3. All right, number 4 for the Tennessee Titans. I would have a lot of interest potentially still going edge with Ruben Bain. I just don't think Ruben Bain is nearly a good enough fit like David Bailey or Arvell Reese would be for Robert Sala's defense. So we'll go ahead and grab Jeremiah Love to get that elite playmaker on the offense. Hell, like I just said, there's talks about the Cardinals potentially looking at taking him third. Granted, that's only one person in the building, but who knows? They're saying highly viewed. Is it the owner? Is it the GM? Is it the assistant GM? Is it the head coach? Who knows who's doing it? But it is being said, and like I said, I do trust Todd McShay a good bit. All right, number 5 for the New York Giants. Um, Friendsman, I know it is here. I guess we could talk about it very briefly. The thing is, they gave Jermaine Illuminor, I believe, a 3-year, what was it, $39 million deal. To me, you don't turn around and take another tackle, and you're not taking a tackle to play him guard fifth overall, in my opinion. So I think I would rather spend this pick somewhere on the defense, preferably. Cardell Tate, I would also listen to. But like Sonny Styles intrigues me a lot to get a linebacker next to Tremaine Edmonds. Caleb Downs intrigues me a lot because this new staff has no ties to Tyler Nubin or really Devon Holland. They have financial ties to, but it's only for really one more year, and you can get off the contract after that year. But Tyler Nubin would be like the guy move for a day 3 pick potentially. So Caleb Downs is definitely interesting as well. I think trading this pick could also be a big benefit. Maybe this is where the Cardinals, I think they would have just taken him third overall. But I mean, hey, the two other guys have went off the board, so maybe they're like, damn, we need to go get our guy before they're all going. I think we're just going to keep it pretty chalk for the sake of seeing what the Cardinals board would look like, and we'll go Sonny Styles fifth overall to the Giants. Big time playmaker, arguably the best player in the draft. To me, he is the best player in the draft. And yeah, John Harbaugh's never had a worry in the world about taking a non-valuable position high in the first round. He took a safety and a center in the same round one year in the first or the same year in the first round in what 2020 was Hamilton 22 or 23? One of the years. I think it was 22. All right, number 6 for the Cleveland Browns. Like I said, if Maui Noah is here, I think it could open talks to potentially taking him and moving him or Titus Howard over to left tackle. I would definitely listen to it because to me, he is the best overall offense lineman. I think that wide receiver room is just terrible, so I would much rather just go with Cardinal Tate and get a weapon for Shador Sanders to throw the ball to. This almost feels like it has to be a trade. Like the Commanders are sitting here at 7. They need draft capital, and Caleb Downs is like, and Ruben Bain I like as well. But like this is not a good board at all for Washington with Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Love off the board, and really David Bailey as well. Would they be willing to trade with Dallas? I mean, the Eagles traded with the Cowboys and gave them Micah Parsons. Well, it's more rather than the Cowboys gave the Eagles Devontae Smith than they got Micah Parsons. I don't see like the Dolphins trading up. Don't see Cincinnati doing it. It would probably have to be Dallas if a trade could go through. Would Washington do this favor? I mean, for the price of 12 and 20 for maybe 7 and 71, I think they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we'll help you out here." But I don't think Dallas is willing to pay that much. Both teams with bad capital, hard to do. It would really probably have to be like the Cardinals moving up, and they're like, "Hey, okay, like now we know is on the board. We got an extra first round pick. Like we'll give them 9 and 65, and we'll go up and get Maui Noah." Like that's not a bad deal at all. And I really don't have a fear with the Saints taking Caleb Downs in the slightest if I'm Washington. So I think yeah, we will pull off the double trade with the Cardinals once again. And we're gonna send 9 and 65 to Washington for the seventh overall pick to make sure we secure the right tackle we want. And you could say, hey, the Saints were never going to take Maui Noah. The Commanders weren't. Why are you doing that trade? How do you know the Saints wouldn't trade out of the eighth overall pick to someone like, hell, maybe the Dolphins do it. Maybe the Lions are like, okay, this is a good range, we'll pay. Maybe the Ravens would, I highly doubt it. The Rams, also doubt it. But you get what I'm saying. I mean, there are teams possible of pulling off this deal, even if there's not a lot of them. It's definitely capable of happening. So the Cardinals, like I said, have moved up to secure France Manoa to be their long-term right tackle of the future. And really, all they did in this move by getting the same player 4 spots later was lose pick 65, but pick up pick 29. That is a big time win for the Cardinals. And like I said, they've done it before, so you can't say it's unrealistic. All right, number 8 for the New Orleans Saints. Ruben Bain, I think, would be a great Cam Jordan replacement off the edge. So that has my attention. Mansour Delane, I think, would be a perfect Alante Taylor replacement. That has my attention. Brandon Staley really, I feel like, did not value corner in his time in Los Angeles. And it's like the corner depth is pretty solid in the second round. So, say if we did the second round, which we're not doing today. So I do think I'm going to go with one of the best overall players on the board and go with Ruben Bain Jr. And like I said with the Commanders, the game plan all along was to trade back and still get Caleb Downs, but pick up a early third round pick that you desperately need in the price of 2 spots. So I feel good about that as well. All right, Tim, for the Bengals, this could be one of the crazier picks, but if you know anything about one, the NFL draft, and mainly two, how the Cincinnati Bengals typically draft and how they value players, I don't think it's crazy to imagine a world where the Bengals would prefer Jermon McCoy over Mansour Delane. They're typically a team that doesn't have a lot of concern about injury concerns, like they take shots on players. Granted, sometimes it doesn't pay off, but the main point would be the athleticism. Jermod McCoy is a inch taller. He's longer. His 40 time was definitely faster than what Mansour Delane would have hypothetically ran. I would guess Delane would have been, I would say around like the 4.4 area, like 4.45, somewhere in that range. McCoy was a 4.38. And McCoy's tape in 2024 is arguably better than any corner's tape in this entire class. So it's a very Bengals esque pick, even though I have Delane higher. Both top 10 players in the draft for me, though. So don't get that twisted. All right, 11 for my Dolphins. Like, yeah, Mansour Delane is here. Yes, Jeff Halfley recruited Mansour Delane. They have talked so much about this rebuild being started in the trenches. I would find it hard to believe they would pass on a player like Spencer Fano, who could start at right guard day one for you and upgrade. Right now, it's like Jamari Sawyer is supposed to be your starter, and he potentially can be your long-term right tackle to replace Austin Jackson, excuse me, who cannot stay healthy ever. All right, 12 for the Cowboys. Hey, man, I feel pretty good. We didn't have to give up extra draft capital to move up, and we're getting an, in my opinion, elite corner prospect to help out the secondary. Delane and Deron Bland can both play in the nickel. I'd prefer Delane on the boundary, Bland in the nickel. Savone Ravel is also a wild card if he'll end up panning out and being a good football player down the line. So there's a world where Delane and Bland are both your starting boundaries if Savone Ravel can't figure it out, then you start like Jacoby Durant in the nickel. So I think that's a very solid 4 corners to have if you're Dallas. But like I said, at pick 20, I'm likely going to go edge just because it is really viewed that is what they're trying to do. All right, 13 for the Rams. Damn, I bit my tongue. Mm. I'll keep it simple. I'm going to go Makai Lemon. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You're trying to win a Super Bowl. This can be a guy that can come in, be your wide receiver three, and still push 800 to 1,000 yards. So he can be very productive. Puka's having a lot of off the field problems. Not saying that'll be long term, but they do exist. Devontae's on the last year of his deal as a Ram. He's also 33 years old. How much time does he have left playing at a high level? Mekhi Lemon just makes a lot of sense, and he doesn't have the injury worries like Jordan Tyson. All right, number 14. Also, we'll keep it very simple. We'll go Vega Ioane out of Penn State. I mean, the Ravens' interior offense line is the worst it's looked in a really long time currently on paper. Voorhees isn't great. John Simpson is okay. I couldn't even tell you who's slated to start at center currently with Tyler Linderbaum going to Vegas. So, yeah, it would be a much needed pickup to improve the guard position. Hell, and if, like I said, if we did the second or third round, I'd probably be taking the center as well. All right, 15 for the Bucks. This is somewhere where I would be interested in making another trade. A lot of good talent on the board in the Bucks. I just don't think would be probably taking any of it. So, could we see an in division trade with the Panthers moving up for Sadiq? Both these teams are trying to win their division. I don't think Tampa's doing them that favor, excuse me. Could the Steelers move up for Monroe Freeling? Like maybe you don't trust Broderick Jones, maybe you don't believe Dylan Cook's your answer. I guess it could be possible and you have to get in front of Detroit. I think the Eagles make a lot of sense for Dylan Thieneman. They make sense for Sadiq. They make sense for Freeling. But for that same matter, you have three players you really like. You probably don't go up. I think it's going to be the Browns. I mean, the Browns already got their wide receiver one. There's a part of me that really believes the Browns could think about taking Monroe Freeling sixth overall. So if he's here at 15 and you know he will be gone by 17 with the Lions, would you be willing to pay to go get him? I think so. In a weaker draft class, I think this costs 70 in a future third to move these 9 spots. We'll send it through. I mean, it's not going to affect the mock. We'll send 149 as well. But like I said, it won't have any effect on the mock. It's more about the idea. And like I said, the Browns are moving up to select Monroe Freeling out of Georgia to be their new long term left tackle to battle it out in camp with Dewan Jones. 16 for the New York Jets, Scott Arvell Reese, number 2 overall. I would consider Ty Simpson. I mean, I think the Jets certainly would. Aaron Glenn should, because if things go bad and you don't have a quarterback to your name and they know they have 3 first round picks next year and they don't have faith in you as a coach, you better not start the season slow or you might be out the door pretty quick. So I just want to go ahead and point that out. So Ty Simpson could be a way to buy Aaron Glenn some time. I think Omar Cooper Jr. would be a great slot weapon for the Jets offense. I guess you could potentially look at Thieneman to pair with Minka Fitzpatrick. Then you just have a bunch of backups like Dane Belton, Andre Cisco's back. You got Malachi Moore. I doubt they do that. In my opinion, it's got to be offense. I don't think Darren Moogie's in a rush at all. I think he just wants to keep stockpiling good players on his roster, and Omar Cooper Jr. is certainly a good player, so he will fall under that title. All right, 17 for the Lions. Would consider a fourth trade here. I really would because the top 3 tackles are off the board. We're missing a third round pick. I talked about Philadelphia. Now it's a couple spots cheaper, and one of your targets is off the board. Do you want to move up for one of these Oregon players? If it's Thieneman, this is your last chance because he goes 18 to the Vikings. And I think I do have a lot of interest in replacing Dylan Thieneman. And it probably only costs 23.68. And for the hell of it, to make you feel better, we'll also send 153 and get back 205. So the Lions move up 50 picks on day 3, pick up a much needed third round pick, and the Eagles now pick up their new starting safety, who is viewed widely as a top 15 talent in the draft. So another great value pick for Howie Roseman, except this time he actually does have to pay draft capital to secure it, which typically it feels like he's the one always trading back and they just fall in his lap. All right, 18 for the Vikings. Some people might say, okay, Thieneman's going to go to Emmanuel McNeil Warren. I'm going to be honest, even if Thieneman was available, this interior defensive line in Minnesota is so bad. I really think Caden McDonald's the pick. I mean, He's going to stuff up the run game. He's a good athlete. He's shown some type of flash as a pass rusher, but that's what you have Brian Flores to develop him for. This could be your Christian Wilkins in terms of his size and athleticism on your interior defensive line. Get you a ton of tackles, stuff the run game for opposing offenses. I think that's much needed because currently it's Jalen Redmond and I don't know, Tyron Ingram Dawkins from like last year's draft on day three. Not good enough, and it's not going to be good enough. So let's go ahead and grab Caden McDonald. 19 for the Panthers in typical form. We'll just walk the card in on Sadiq. Makes a ton of sense to get a weapon at tight end that can also play at a high level in the slot. So it makes a lot of sense to give Bryce more help with Tedero, McMillan, and Jalen Coker. All right, 20 for the Cowboys. I kind of told you what I was going to do, and that was to get a pass rusher, 20th overall. I think if you have interest in David Bailey, like a bigger guy like Akeem Mesdor, maybe you don't want. Keldrick Falk, you definitely wouldn't want if that's the case. Maybe that could lead to TJ Parker still being a top 20 pick. Yes, TJ Parker had a down year, but it's undeniable how well he played in the 2024 season when he had 11 sacks. And coming into this year, people thought he'd be a top 5 pick. So the upside's clearly there. You're asking him to be the third guy and be a good run defender. He can do that. But he also might be able to get you 6 or 8 sacks as a rookie, which would also be really nice. 21 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's another, I mean, it's down to 3 teams for me that Ty Simpson's going to go to. The Cardinals off a trade up to the back end of the first, the Jets at 16 are a trade up, or the Steelers at 21. And with Aaron Rodgers playing hardball for the second straight offseason, I want 30 million. You're not worth 30 million. Like you're just not at this point in your career. So Ty Simpson could be an interesting option. Just say, hey, Aaron, kick rocks. It was fun for a season. Not really. We're moving elsewhere. I think they could feel like that, especially if someone like Omar Cooper's off the board and Vega Yawane's off the board, Monroe Freeling's off the board. I think today it's going to be Ty Simpson out of Alabama. So we should have fun with that Cardinals pick because I feel like a lot of us, including myself, thought that'd be Ty Simpson at 29. Maybe it's not, and maybe you're just getting another quality player earlier than 65 in this mock draft. 22 for the LA Chargers. Another team with bad draft capital. It feels like there's a lot of those teams this year. Akeem Mesidor, I think, could be like a Odafe Owe replacement in the sense of he can help you right now. He's going to be a good run defender and take that weight off Khalil Mack so he can just be a DPR like he was last year, really. So Akeem makes a lot of sense to me, in my opinion. Pregnon makes sense to me to be a plug and play starting left guard. I don't know if Emmanuel Pregnon goes this high. Keldrick Falk is a high upside pick. Chargers are trying to win now. I'm just going to go with Akeem Mesidor at 22. All right, 23 for the Lions. I feel pretty good. I mean, man, I moved back. I got pick 68. I moved to day 3 pickup 50 spots, and all the tackles are still here. So which one do we want? Me personally, I would be fine with the Lions taking one of the upside guys because they develop offensive line so well. Which one do you like? Because Panay Sewell can play either tackle spot. Blake Miller's getting a lot more hype, man. I'm going to make it Blake Miller in this mock draft today. Maybe Caden Proctor does go higher than him. It definitely could happen. Hell, maybe Caleb Lomu, you just get a pro-ready player at left tackle to replace Decker. It seems like they do want to move Panay Sewell to left tackle. Blake Miller can be a plug-and-play starting right tackle, but the also benefit to that is Larry Borum played good football last year for the Dolphins, so if Blake Miller's not ready, then Borum can just start at right tackle where he did have success last year in Miami with. So I think that's also a good option. All right, 24 for the Bucks. I mean, man, oh man. No part of me in the world expected Akeem Mesidor and TJ Parker to be off the board. But hey, this is good. It's good that things did play out like this because now we're going to get a new option. I think Emmanuel Pregnon to be, like I said, a plug and play left guard could make some sense to upgrade Ben Bredesen. Like Jordan Tyson, I think the receiver room is really good even without Mike Evans. It sounds like some people think it could be corner with losing Jamel Dean, and I guess you could be right. I would prefer you just start Zion McCollum and Ben Morrison. Like you're paying McCollum a good bit. You invested in Morrison. So I feel like that's already been invested with. Emmanuel McNeil Warren would be a cool safety to put with Antoine Winfield. I think I'm going to go Zion Young. I'm just going to go to my next name down the board. I love Zion Young. It's not my next name, by the way. I think he's better than Mesidor and TJ Parker, and that's just my truthful opinion. But man, 6'6, 265 pounds, can defend the run at a high level, also a good pass rusher. He really doesn't have a lot of flaws in his game, and I think the main reason his stock has been down for a while is because of the DWI in December, and maybe people are trying to blow that out of proportion. He's not a bad character. The dude was a team captain for Missouri. He can't be that bad of a locker room issue if you want to put the C on his chest. So I think this is really good value, in my opinion, for Zion Young. I know it's not popular to have Young in the first round, but hey, that will be my one touch on this mock draft. 25 for the Chicago Bears. Emmanuel McNeil Warren makes a ton of sense to go ahead and pair with Kobe Bryant at the safety position. Maybe you don't feel great about Peter Woods with his offseason process and how bad it's been. Just go ahead and get a plug and play safety because your safeties were a big part of your defense last year, especially with Kevin Byard leading the league in interceptions out of nowhere. Shout out KB. 26 for the Bills. I really question if the Bills would take the risk on Jordan Tyson, and you might ask why. There's a great example, and it happened last year with Will Johnson falling down everyone's board because of a hamstring/knee injury, and they elected to go with speed and upside with Maxwell Harrison. Some teams don't learn from their mistakes, so maybe this just is Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M to get speed and upside on the boundary of your receiver room to get a big play threat out there to help open the field underneath for Khalil Shakir and DJ Moore. 27 for the 49ers. I think this would have to be Caden Proctor. I don't really see him falling out of the first round in any world. And here for the Niners, he could, one, if Trent Williams and that stuff works out, he can sit behind Trent Williams. Two, if it doesn't, he could replace Trent Williams. And three, which would be my favorite alternative, is just play him at left guard. Because I don't think he's the best athlete, how some people try to act like. I think sometimes if his feet get stiff and he's bad in space, at guard, you don't really have those problems. So I think Caden Proctor would actually be a pretty good guard, regardless of how damn big he is. Um, at tackle, or just in general, really. 28 for the Texans. This is somewhere where I would take the shot on Peter Woods, just because, like, bro, how could Peter Woods not bounce back with a defensive line that consists of Will Anderson at edge, Daniil Hunter at edge? You brought in Logan Hall to be a pass rusher off the interior. You brought back Sheldon Rankins. Tommy Togiai can stuff up the run. Like, how could Peter Woods not succeed in this Houston system with a, dare I say, the best defensive coach in football in D'Amico Ryans calling plays? I'm not buying it. I think Peter Woods would be great to land in Houston. All right, man. 29 for the Cardinals. Got Francis Manoa at 7. Like I said, Ty Simpson is gone. What do we want to do here? It's not going to be Keldrick Falk, and it's not going to be edge rusher in general. Maybe it could be linebacker. Honestly, where I'm seeing the best value is actually at defensive tackle. And also, you got to remember, you pick again in 5 picks. Whew. Man, this is a tough pick. Damn, why'd I take Ty Simpson? Steeler fans are going to hate it too, so it's not even like I did myself a favor. Um, you know what? I'm gonna go Emmanuel Pregnon. And I know it might shock some people. The right side of that offensive line sucks. So if you're telling me you spent your 2 first round picks off that trade and you still got Maui Noah, and now you have Emmanuel Pregnon starting next to Maui Noah, I would probably call you a genius because now your whole entire offensive line looks really good. And now you can worry about quarterback in 2027 and get a probably you might have a top 3 pick and get a elite quarterback with a good 5-man starting offensive line in front of them. I think that'd be money. All right, 30 for my Dolphins. Got Spencer Fano. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't see a world where it's Jordan Tyson. I definitely could see a world where it's Keldrick Falk, though, because Keldrick Falk will be a 1st round pick, and I feel very confident in that. I think he might be a top 20 pick. Uh, like when I say top 20, I mean like closer to like the Cowboys at 12 or the Bengals at 10 or the Saints at 8. Like you really don't know with these good athletes that are super young and they're versatile and you're just like, man, if we can develop that pass rush, this dude's going to dominate in the NFL. Some teams take that higher than others. 30 feels like good value for it for my Dolphins. I mean, you need a great run defender on the defensive line. He can also play inside, and I think he'd pair well with like Kenneth Grant and Jordan Phillips in there. So for the long run, that's why I didn't name Zach Sealer. So yeah, I like Falk here. 31 for the Patriots. I'm going to go ahead and grab the. I mean, Caleb Lomu's also here, but it really feels like Maxi Iheanacho would be a better fit to just come into New England, sit for a year, develop your game behind Morgan Moses. You might start a couple games. And yeah, then you're the long term starting right tackle for hopefully 4 years under contract with that fifth year option from 2027 onwards. And 32 to end off this first round mock. Hope y'all have enjoyed it as well. I think I'm just going to keep it simple and go Colton Hood to replace Tariq Woolen. To me, Colton Hood's definitely a first round pick. So if he's there at 32, feels like a seamless fit for the Seattle secondary to stay at a elite level. But yeah, man, let me know what you thought about my trade ideas for the third overall pick. Wanted to give y'all a fun mock draft since I saw it today. And yeah, drop me some of your ideas of what you could potentially look at for that trade. And until next time, my friends, peace out.